Hi guys, welcome to your Brew Day Experience. My name's Sam, I'm the owner here at Brew Day. I'm also going to be your tour guide on our pilot brewery as we set up a Brew Day Experience for you. So today we're going to be brewing our IPA. And actually this is one of the first times we brewed our IPA, so you kind of get to walk through that with us and see those discoverables. Hopefully we'll have a glorious failure. You'll get to laugh with us. We may edit it out, we may not edit it out, depending on how bad it is. So anyway, really what I want to do though is walk through everything. So we're going to go through all the stuff that's on the table that's going to come to your house as part of the Brew Day Experience. It might look like a lot, don't worry. Most of it's going to come back to me. As part of our brand promise here at Brew Day, I got to clean it, I got to store it, I got to maintain it. You don't. Don't worry about it. If it's dirty at the end of it, if it's wet at the end of it, if it's hot at the end of it, if it smells at the end of it, I'm going to come take it out of your house. Don't sweat it. But anyway, just wanted to put you a little bit at ease. Most of the stuff's going away. You're going to be left with some great beer. We're really excited for you guys to try it out. We're really excited for you guys to brew beer, hopefully for the first time. Maybe this is more than your first time. You're just checking out something new. But we'd love to hear your feedback as well. So hit us up at the website. You can always email me directly at sam@brewdayexperience.com. And other than that, we're just going to get going here. So again, as I mentioned, everything on the table comes to your house as part of the Brew Day Experience. It might look a little bit different. Hopefully it looks a little bit better than it does right now. This is kind of one of the first times that we've got this set up for you. But who knows where it's going to be in the next 6 months to a year. Heck, it's 2020 right now. If you're watching this and it's 2030, we must be doing pretty well. Well, let's get cracking. All right. In this gray bin here, you're going to have some sort of a tote, some sort of box that comes somewhat nondescript. But really the important thing is I want you to open this up right away because inside of here is going to be a small cooler or a cooler bag that's going to have some critical stuff in it. So we're going to go ahead and find that. So in this case, this is just, it's a soft-sided bag, but what it has in here is this has an ice pack in it. We'll go ahead and crack this open and see what we've got. I don't think I have the yeast in here at the moment just because I already have it in the refrigerator. But yeah, so we have all of our hops in here. Now, this is probably sufficient for the hops. We keep them in cold storage here at Brew Day in the brewery. But if it's been out on your porch and everything, go ahead and throw them in the fridge until you need them. It's not critical. You can leave them out, not a big deal. But if you're doing it in the IPA and we have some dry hop, that's stuff that you're not going to put in for another 5 days. So it's best to toss that in the fridge or even the freezer. The really critical thing though is going to be your yeast. Look for the yeast pack in here. We use imperial yeast. It's going to say imperial yeast and whatever strain that we're using for the recipe that you're brewing. Just make sure that gets in the fridge right away. We want to keep that cold right up until the point that we're going to use it. I'm going to set this back in the gray box for now. Since we're on the gray box, we'll stick with the gray box. We've got some other goodies in here. Tools for brewing. So we've got some hot pads and a paddle. This is what you're going to use to stir your mash. And I apologize for any jargon I might throw at you guys. If you've never brewed before, mash is just when we add the grains to the water, and it's kind of like looks like thick oatmeal. And this is what you're going to use to stir it. The hot pads are optional. I'm not going to make you use them. Obviously, I'm not going to be there. I highly recommend you use them at any time you feel that you need them. They're there for your convenience. We hope that if you need them, you have them. And that's really the intent here, is to make sure that you have everything you could possibly need to make this as smooth experience as possible. All right, so along those lines, we have an appropriately sized extension cable that you guys can use for plugging in your electric brewing system. This is about 50 feet long. It's going to be, it has the right size cable inside of it, so it's not going to get overheated when the brewer is actually pulling electricity through it. So it's there for you guys to use. Use it if you need it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. That's fine too. It's just there if you need it. Another box in here is going to be your hop spider. It may or may not say hop spider on it. This is just meant to hold it. All a hop spider is it's a stainless steel basket that your hops go into when it's inside the kettle, the boil kettle. We'll come back to that later when we're actually using it, and it'll make a lot more sense then. But just so you know what it is, that's what's in this box if you want to go through and look at it. there should be a plastic bag or a container in there, and it's going to have two little pieces of plastic in here. This is your bottling wand. You're not going to need this until you're ready to bottle, but just go ahead and leave it in here. This is a pre-sanitized bag. It may have some moisture in it. That's just sanitizer. It's not going to hurt you. It's really, really gentle on your skin. And then your airlock. You will need your airlock by the end of your Brew Day experience today, but keep track of this. I would just stash it with your bottles, wherever you put the bottles at the end, and we'll get to that in a second here. So to lead right into that, these are your bottles. We'll come back to those in a second. The last thing in here is going to be your control box. The box for your control box. Just be careful. This is probably the only like really critical thing that we don't want to drop. We don't want to, lose it. Really don't want to break it because it's kind of where all the magic happens. But inside it, this is your control box for the Grainfather. This box is just intended for shipping, for transportation. At the end of the day, if you want to take it off and put it back in there, that'd be great. We'd love that. If you don't feel comfortable with taking it apart and putting it back away, just leave it connected, and our delivery people will make an assessment when they pick it up as to whether or not they want to put it back in the box. Generally, get some stuff splashed on it. We'll bring it back to the test brewery here, take it into our cleaning station, clean it really, really well, and then pack it back up for the next person. You don't really need to worry about it. What I do ask though is that this box, when you're not using it, just throw it in the gray bin. That's really what it's for. The gray bin is there for you guys to chuck everything into that you don't want in your house, and we'll pick it up and take it with us. And the last good bit here, this is your bottle pump. This will make a lot more sense when we get to the water, but that's in here. When we get to the setup portion, it'll start to make a little bit more sense, but it's just a battery-powered water pump, so you don't have to be 5 gallons of water, at waist height to pour it in. But that's also in the box there. Let's get on to the bottles. So you have 2 cases of bottles. These are your swing top bottles. So these are 750 milliliter swing top bottles. They're pre-sanitized. So you'll notice when you get them, all of the caps are sealed and it'll have a little bit of liquid in it. That's okay. It's supposed to be there. Don't dump it out. Don't open it. And for Pete's sake, don't drink it. It's not going to hurt you, but it's probably not going to taste great either. What it is a food grade sanitizer. It's in there to keep the interior space of the bottle sanitized until it's time to bottle, which is going to be in about 2 weeks from today when you're brewing. As tempting as it might be, don't pop the tops. Just leave them in there. Set them somewhere safe that they're not going to get knocked over, run over, etc. And we'll need those in a few weeks. For now, I'm just going to move them off to the side so we can get to the stuff behind it. In the box also, you also have your carbonation drops. So if you see these, one of the boxes is going to have a pack of these in there. You'll need these at bottling. It'll make more sense when we get to the bottling stage. Just leave them in there. You don't need them right now. Alright, next behind that we have our Sparge water heater. So depending on the model that you have, it may look slightly different. They all work the exact same. It's just essentially a stainless steel kettle that has a temperature controller on it. So this one, this model happens to be a Brewer's Edge model. It's got a dual watt heater on it. We'll get into that when we get to it. You will need this immediately. This is one of the things that we will be dealing with during setup. But when we say Sparge water heater, that's this one. It's the smaller of the 2 stainless steel vessels. This is the Grainfather system. This is your electric brewery. We'll get into that a little bit deeper just because it's got a lot more stuff going on with it. I'm going to go through the other couple items over here, and then we'll come back to that because it's got a lot of stuff going on. You probably noticed the water bottles here. These are this is 10 gallons of steam distilled water. We're going to use this for brewing. You don't need to use your tap water. We actually would prefer you did not use your tap water. We have the water adjusted with the appropriate minerals so that it's right to the style. Some styles you want a little bit more body. Some styles you want a little bit more crispness to the finish of the beer. And also other styles, the mineral balance that we put in them is really just designed to complement whatever that recipe is. So we're doing an IPA. This one's going to be designed to complement those hops and really balance the mouthfeel for the beer that that we've designed here. If you use your tap water, we can't control those minerals. It's going to still be a great beer, but it's not going to be as great a beer as it might be, and it's not going to be the style that we intended. So we just asked to use the steam distilled water. We did provide it for you. You're not going to use all 10 gallons. Just say that up front. We'll come back to that as we go through the water, but you're going to have some left over. That's okay. It's intentional. It's just easier to bring 2 5-gallon jugs to your house instead of 8 or 9 individual gallon jugs that then we've got to recycle. These are reusable. It's just easier all the way around. Okay. Next we've got the grain bucket. So what's in the grain bucket, Sam? Well, the grain bucket has your grain in it. Go figure, right? So today we're doing our IPA, so you can see that here. So this is a bunch of different malts that are in our IPA. So we've got some two-row, we've got some flaked maize, we've got some flaked wheat, a little bit of acidulated malt to balance out our pH. All that's pre-milled for you. It's stored in this food safe bucket. You're going to need this pretty quickly into your brew day, so keep it handy. And then also keep the bucket handy. That'll make more sense when we get to it, but once you put the grain in, don't lose this. Don't turn it upside down in the grass or kick it out in the street or something. Excuse me. You're going to need it a little bit later in the process also to make more sense as we get to it. But this is your grain bucket, so if we're referring to it, that's the grain bucket. Looks not to be confused with your fermenter. So the fermenter, at least some of them will say fermenter on the side, but generally they're just a little bit bigger. This is a 6.5 gallon fermenter. You'll notice this one has a piece of tape on it. Also, it has a spigot on it. The spigot's going to help us with our bottling. But it's got liquid inside of it. The liquid inside of it, again, not unlike the bottles, is a sanitizer. This is a pre-sanitized fermenter. You don't have to clean it. You don't have to sanitize it. We've already taken care of that for you. Don't open it up. That kind of breaks the cycle. And it starts the clock on how quickly we need to do something with it to the point where now I've got to either re-sanitize it or anything else. And we really don't want you to have to deal with that. The whole intent here is to let you have as few steps as possible and have a great brewing experience and not have to worry about cleaning and sanitizing things. That's our job. So the liquid in there, it's supposed to be in there. Leave it in there. Don't open it until I tell you to, and we're going to have a great day. All right. So we're going to get a little bit closer here, and we're going to go through the individual components of the electric brewing system. This one happens to be a Grainfather. All right, this is your Grainfather all-grain electric brewing system. When it arrives at your house, it's going to have a couple pieces of tape that are holding the glass lid in place. You can go ahead and discard the tape. I know it's tempting, but don't use these clips. These clips really are not designed to be used with the glass lid. That could crack the lid. It's tempered, but it could crack it or damage it. It could also dent the rim here. Really, they're designed for an alembic pot still. This whole system hails from, I think, New Zealand or Australia, where that's actually illegal. We do not distill liquor with it. This is simply used for brewing beer. So let's go ahead and get into it here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape. And then kind of unpack the goodies here. And for part of this, I'm actually going to have it up on the table, and then the other part, I'm actually going to move it down to the ground as if we were getting ready to brew, because you'll see when we try and lift stuff out of it, this has an internal grain basket, which about doubles the height and would definitely go off camera here and into our lighting fixture. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. You can set this down anywhere. One thing that I have found with these wonderful little clips is they hold it very nicely. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that there. Generally, I put it on the back, but since you can't see the back right now, we'll leave it. Next, we have the main power cord. That just sits right here on top of the grain screen, and we'll go ahead and pull that out. Now in here, you'll see we've got this. This is the handle to lift the grain basket out. If it's disconnected, that's okay. It's really quite simple to put in place. So you just slide it into the holes on either side here. Actually, I guess you can't see that one here. You slide it in here, it's got these little notches.
What I find easiest is to slide it in and then put a little upward pressure on it as I go into the other one. And then if I keep pressure on it as I move it around, that's going to help me keep it in place so it doesn't jump out. And then as I start to lift this, you'll see that very quickly this kind of goes off camera. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there for the moment, and we're going to connect the control box instead, and we'll come back to this when we get it back onto the ground.
All right, so I have the box out of the box, if you will. So this is the control box. And one of the nice things that Grainfather's done is they have 3 connections on it, but each of those connections corresponds to its own port. So you don't have to guess, there's no color coding or anything like that. We just match up the connector with the right port and you're good to go. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to feed this through, but I don't connect this right away. This is your temperature sensor, just because it gets to be a bit of a spaghetti mess down here, and it's just easier not to connect it until the last. So I just kind of go left to right. So I'm going to start with this box connector here, which is going to fit in here. So I'm going to feed it right up through the bottom here and fit that one in. That's going to be last. Next is going to be my main power cable. So I'm going to feed this right up under here. Again, it all just fits right where it's supposed to. There's no real magic to it. And then last is the main coupling power here. And it only fits one way. It's one of those high voltage cords. So you're not going to put it in the wrong way. And then lastly, is those little standoffs are going to fit right in those little key slots. Slides down, bada bing, bada boom, you're all done. One thing though, don't forget to put this in. I've done that. It's funny because I did it. It's really annoying. Make sure to put this in. This is called your Thermowell. This little port right here. This gray piece just slides right in. Nothing else to it, and you're all set. For the next part, I'm actually going to move this down off of the table because we're going to have to lift stuff out of it, and it's just easier to do when it's on the floor versus having to get a ladder and everything else for camera angles. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down on the floor. Now when I lift, I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't, this is a handle, this metal part here. This is the load bearing, so you put it there, and then I just kind of hold onto the back of it, and I can kind of set it down. All right, so now we're on the ground. So one of the first things you'll notice that we didn't take out was the handle. So I'm just going to set that in there. And then I'm going to pick this bad boy up. I'm just going to bring this over and show you. So this has little feet on the sides, and these correspond to this the support ring here. There's four areas for it to sit and 4 feet. And I just kind of set it on there. When you bring it up and out, it's kind of a rotating method here. I'm just going to rotate it so that the feet line up, and then they're set in the center of those, or as close to the center of those supports as possible. And I'm going to take the handle out. I'm just going to set the handle down. Let's see, I think I can adjust our camera angle here. All right, there we go. Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this by these the standoffs, this top grain screen here. I'm just going to pull that straight out. So one of the things that can happen is that this can come off. If it does, just go ahead and work it back on slowly. Don't overstretch it, and really don't overthink it. It's just going to fit on there. But that's important. It does have to be on the edge. One, it's going to protect the edge from scratching if there's some open perf on there. And then 2, it actually does make a tight seal, and that is important for the way that the pump functions. Next, I'm going to pull out. This is our recirculation pipe. That'll make more sense a little bit later, but I'm just going to go ahead and set that on the table as well. The next thing I'm going to pull out is the grain blocker. So this is just a hollow tube, but it's got a cap on it, and that's really what differentiates it. It fits down inside our overflow pipe, which I'll show you here in a second. Go ahead and set that down. This is the Overflow Fitting. Again, that'll make a little bit more sense a little bit later on, but I'm going to go ahead and pull that out also. And then next, the big one here is the counterflow Wort chiller, is what's actually down we ship in here for you. And it looks like a little bit of a spaghetti mess. It's got a lot of tubes and everything, but again, that we're not going to need until later. So I'm just going to set that over there, and we'll cover that when we get to it. So next, the most important thing here is what I want to do now is I have everything out of the grain basket is I want to check the grain basket and make sure that the seal at the bottom, so there's a corresponding perforated plate on the bottom here, I'm going to show you in a second, it also has a seal. And what I want to make sure is that seal is not peeled back, it's not off or anything like that, because that can sometimes happen when it's getting jostled around when we're delivering it to your home, loading it in our car, unloading it, any number of different things. And we just want to make sure that that's set up correctly. So I'm going to pull you over here so you can see in a little bit better. One of the key indicators that we're going to look for is our overflow pipe. Now the overflow pipe here looks pretty good. And this part it slides up and down. So if it comes off, it's okay. You just put it back on. Just like that. But it should be straight up and down. One way to check it is kind of use the sight holes for where the handle engages, and just kind of think of an imaginary line across that. It should be right in the middle of it. The other thing too is we're looking down along those as we're really trying to see the seal down here. So we want to make sure that the seal is in place all the way around. And one way to check that is just kind of push down on it gently and see if it moves. And if it doesn't, it should be good. We'll have a separate video on how to adjust that or how to fix that if it is out of whack. 9 times out of 10 it's going to be perfect when you get it. It's just one of those gut checks we just want you to do to make sure that it's set up correctly. So now that that's the case, what we can do is we're going to take this out completely because we won't need it until we actually get to our mash. So when we're adding water for our initial boil and everything, we don't need it. So we're just going to go ahead and pull this out and set this aside. One last thing, so then when we look down in here, so if you see the little piece down there, the perforated tube with the black cap, that's the pump pickup. Just make sure it's attached. If it's not attached, again, things happen. Maybe it got knocked off when it was shipping. The little stub down there, that's actually your Thermowell. That's what the temperature sensor is plugged into right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and show you what it should look. This is what it should look like. But say it's off or something, or any number of different things here. I mean, it's not easy to remove, but maybe stuff happens. So what we're going to do is check. I'm going to pull this cap off camera here. But if you look inside there, you kind of see that with the light there. You see how it's got a scallop shape. I don't know if the lighting's good enough or not, but that's supposed to face down. So really, the liquid's kind of going to go up through that tube, and this is really designed to block hot material and other malt material and everything that might slip past the grain basket, so it doesn't clog the pump. I'm going to go ahead and put that rubber cap back on over here off camera, but it just slides over the end. It's nothing. I'm doing it one-handed, so it's not terribly difficult to execute. And then I just want to make sure that scallop shape is facing down. I'm going to go ahead and just reinstall that down here. And again, it's not difficult. It just kind of slips over. And it's back in place. So now at this point, we're ready to go for adding liquid. The other thing too is you can check over everything. We've pre-checked it for you guys. It should be set to go. We're checking everything here before we're delivering it to your house. So it should be good, but that's just kind of that final gut check to kind of do. One other thing too, don't plug it in until you put water in it. There is a thermal switch in there. It's on the bottom side of this. Like if you actually flip the whole unit over, it's got a little push button switch. What that is, it's a safety override to keep you from burning out the heating element. The way you can do that is if you heat it dry. So if you're just messing around, you plugged it in, you hit heat down here on the controller, and started heating, and there was no liquid in it, it would overheat and trigger that, and it could be up to 4 hours before you can reset it. So just keep that in mind. Just don't even plug it in until you've got liquid in it. It's just a fail-safe. Okay? All right, we're going to get the water prepped. We'll see you in a second. Alternatively, if you want to, you can just pour it in. It's entirely up to you. Again, we're doing all 5 gallons, so... All right, so we added 0.56 gallons from the other jug.
into a pitcher and then poured it in. But one of the things here I wanted to show you too is just a little easier to confirm it in metric. Again, this is built for metric, but I'll zoom in here and see if you can get an idea there. So we're between the 5 and the 6. The gallons are on the left side, liters are on the right. But we're shooting for 21 liters, or 21.06 liters. So it's that nice way to confirm what we're actually that we're actually hitting our numbers. So even though otherwise we'd have to kind of guess somewhere between 5 and 6, but since we have both measurements, we can confirm and say, okay, yeah, that's dead on 21 or just a hair over, which 21.06 doesn't get much more than a hair over there anyway. So, anywho, that was it. Thanks.